Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something. The most dangerous person you will ever meet is the one who has turned their pain into power. I'm not talking about someone born with silver spoons and smooth roads. I'm talking about the ones who were left bleeding in the dirt, the ones who heard no so many times it echoed in their bones, the ones who buried parts of themselves just to survive and rose anyway. That person is you, or at least the version of you that's waiting to be born from the fire. See, pain is not the enemy. It's the invitation. It's the pressure that turns coal into diamonds. The wound that becomes the window, the breakdown that bursts the breakthrough. But only if you let. Most people run from pain. They numb it, avoid it, drown it in distractions, in people, in temporary pleasures. But here's what they don't tell you. Every time you run from your pain, you run from your power too. Because your story, your real story, isn't written in your comfort. It's carved in your struggle. Look around you. Every great man, every powerful woman, every legend you admire, they didn't just wake up chosen. They bled for it. They cried behind closed doors. They wrestled with the nights that felt too long and dreams that felt too far. But they didn't stop. They transformed. Your pain is not here to destroy you. It's here to design you. There's a version of you on the other side of the storm that walks different, thinks different, talks different, because they've been through something. They've been forged in disappointment, trained by betrayal, raised by failure, and they no longer shake when the world does. But hear me, you don't get to that version of yourself by pretending the pain isn't real. You get there by facing it. You sit with the memory. You own the heartbreak. You let the tears fall if they must, and then you rise anyway. You look pain in the face and say, I see you, but I'm not staying here. I'm not becoming bitter. I'm becoming better. That's when power shows up. That's when your pain stops being a prison and starts being a passport to purpose, to strength, to unshakable confidence. You think you're broken? No, you're becoming. You think you're lost? No, you're being led. You think life is unfair? Good, let it be, because fair doesn't make legends. Unfair makes unforgettable. That divorce might have been the best thing that ever happened to you. That layoff, it just cleared space for your gift to breathe. That betrayal, it burned the bridge that was blocking your blessing. You can't see it now. I get it, but years from now you'll look back and realize it had to happen. The fire had to come. The shaking had to start. The breaking had to break you. So the real you could come through. Because pain, when harnessed, becomes clarity. It becomes fuel. It becomes your why. You've got a choice. Suffer from it or rise through it. Be a victim or build a vision. Let it destroy you or define you. I know it hurts. I know the nights are long. I know you're tired of starting over, of giving your all only to be let down, of trying to keep a smile on your face when your world is in pieces. But here's the truth. Your pain is the proof that you're still alive. And if you're still alive, you still have a shot at turning it all around, a shot at becoming the one they never saw coming. A shot at using your scars to write scripture, your own gospel of victory. You don't need the applause. You don't need the approval. You don't need their validation to rise. All you need is to decide right here, right now, that this pain will not go to waste. Turn it into something. Build with it. Speak through it. Love because of it. Fight forward with it, because your story is not over. Not even close. There's someone out there who needs your testimony, not your perfection. They need your authenticity, your survival, your raw, ugly, real truth. So don't hide it. Don't shrink for the comfort of those who can't see your future. Don't dim because your light makes others squint. Your pain is your superpower. You just have to own it. You've got roots deeper than your losses. You've got strength louder than your silence. You've got resilience stitched into your DNA. You just forgot. Let this pain remind you, you are not what happened to you. You are what you do with what happened. So if they left you, good. Now rise without them. If they mocked you, good. Now prove them wrong. If they doubted you, perfect. Now you have no choice but to believe in yourself twice as hard. Every tear was watering your growth. Every crack is letting your light shine through. Every disappointment was redirection. Every no was a setup for a louder yes. You thought the pain meant it was over, but it meant you were being re. Every success story starts with one thing. Someone decided they were not going to stay in their pain. They got up, they cleaned their face, and they went again. That's all you need. You don't need to feel ready. You need to move anyway. When the world gets quiet, when nobody's clapping, when it's just you and your broken pieces, that's when God leans in and whispers, now I can use you, because you've got no mask, no ego, no image to protect, just truth, just hunger, just purpose. You're not the victor, you're the vessel, and vessels get filled with wisdom, with fire, with power. You will not leave this life with your greatness still locked inside you. You will not die with your dreams unspoken. You will not let pain win. You will use it to fuel your mission, to heal others, to become so undeniably powerful, they won't believe who you used to be. So today, choose to turn your pain into power, not tomorrow, not when it's easier. Now, the storm wasn't meant to drown you. It was meant to cleanse you. The fire wasn't meant to burn you. It was meant to refine you. The loss wasn't meant to break you. It was meant to wake you. You're being called higher. Answer. Let them wonder how you did it. Let them ask how you survived. Let them whisper about your comeback. Because this is your becoming season. Not despite the pain, but because of it. Now get up, wipe your face, straighten your spine, walk like you were built from everything that tried to break you. Because you want to become the one in your family, in your circle, in your generation, who said enough. The pain stops with me and the power starts here. You weren't handed that hardship to shrink. You were entrusted with it because the universe saw something in you, something unbreakable, something rare. So it tested you. It gave you loss so you'd understand value. It gave you silence so you'd learn to listen to yourself. It gave you rejection so you'd no longer beg for rooms you were meant to own. And once you understand that, you stop asking why me, and you start asking what now. Now you get to build. Now you get to stand in the ashes and say, watch me. Because resilience isn't about bouncing back. It's about rising better. It's what happens when you use every scar as a signal, every bruise as blueprint. It's not delusion, it's design. You're building a life no one saw coming because they only saw your breaking, not your blueprint. They saw your setback. What they didn't see were the seeds being planted underground, the roots growing deeper while you were hidden, the silent stretching of your capacity while the world called you weak. Let them misread you. Let them underestimate you. That's fuel. You don't need their understanding. You need your own conviction. This is where champions are made. Not on podiums, but in pressure. Not when people are watching, but when nobody shows up and you choose to train anyway, heal anyway, hustle anyway. You are not made of fragile things. You are made of fire and fight and something ancient that doesn't back down when life roars. You've carried burdens that would have broken most people, but you're still here, breathing, beating, becoming. Don't insult that strength by pretending you're average. There's nothing average about surviving storms and still speaking life. There's nothing ordinary about being cracked open and still choosing to love. There's nothing small about being hurt and showing up with grace. People will try to put you in a box built from your past. Don't you dare step in. You outgrew that version of yourself the moment you decided your pain would become your teacher, not your tether. Now everything shifts. Now you start making decisions not from fear but from faith. Faith in your voice, faith in your vision, faith in the version of you that's quietly been waiting to lead. Stop explaining your growth. It wasn't for them, it was for you. You owe no one an apology for healing. You owe no one a blueprint for becoming. This next chapter is authored by your authority, not their approval. Don't shrink so they feel comfortable. Don't apologize because you're no longer suffering. You are not obligated to stay small for people who refuse to grow. Your healing may threaten their stagnancy. Let it. Your rising may expose their laziness. Let it. Your light may blind their shadows. Let it. You're not here to cater to comfort zones. You're here to expand what's possible. So, go. Go build the thing that scares you. Speak the truth that shakes you. Walk the path no one around you has dared to touch, because your pain didn't come to paralyze you. It came to point the way. Every wound became a window. Every ache became architecture. You've got a soul that refused to give up. Don't insult that with excuses. The old you, the one who tolerated disrespect, who ignored red flags, who lived small to keep the peace, that version is gone. In its place stands someone who has buried enough to know how to resurrect. Someone who no longer begs for scraps, but builds their own table. Someone who knows that survival was never the goal. Sovereignty is, you don't need to keep rehearsing the pain. You're past that. You're rewriting the purpose. And no, not everyone will understand this version of you. They weren't meant to. The caterpillar doesn't consult the earthworms before it flies. Let them watch, let them whisper, let them wonder how you did it. Because what's coming out of you now isn't desperation, it's dominion. You've earned your voice. You've earned your crown. You've earned the right to be unapologetically powerful. And from here on out, you don't wait for permission. You move with boldness, with belief, with the full authority of someone who knows. I have walked through fire and I do not fear the flame. So go light your world. Let your scars shimmer in the sunlight. Let your laugh echo in places that once heard your cries. Let your story rise, not as a caution, but as a call to arms. Because the next person crying in the dark needs your roar. The next woman collapsing under heartbreak needs your fire. The next man buried under silence needs your thunder. You are not just healing for you, you're healing for them. So don't stop now. You've got a legacy to write, and it starts with turning the pain that almost killed you into the power that finally crowned you. You're not behind, you're not too late, you're not damaged goods, you're on divine timing. Some chapters take longer because the lesson is deeper. Some delays aren't rejections, they're refinements. The world doesn't need a rushed version of you, it needs the real one. The one who's wrestled, questioned, rebuilt, and now stands anchored. You haven't wasted time. You've been gathering tools. You've been learning how to protect your peace, how to discern energy, how to walk away from what doesn't align. That's not failure, that's foundation. You see, power without pain is shallow. It has no compassion. It can't lead. It crumbles when the wind changes. But power forged in pain, that's unshakable. That's the kind that walks into rooms and shifts atmospheres without saying a word. That's the kind that leads from love, not ego. That's the kind that builds empires, not from entitlement, but from empathy. Because when you've bled, you don't laugh at other people's wounds. When you've lacked, you don't flow. When you've been broken, you don't break others, you build them. That's real strength, and it's rare. But you're rare. Don't downplay that. Don't dilute what you carry to fit into systems that weren't built for you. You're not here to replicate. You're here to redefine. There's something in your story that the next generation needs. A blueprint for resilience, a voice for the voiceless, a roadmap for the forgotten. So tell it, live it, be it, even when it's messy, even when it's lonely, even when you're still healing while holding space for others. That's purpose in motion. That's why the pain was allowed, not to punish you, but to position you. You see, nothing shifts in comfort. Nothing grows in safety. We don't evolve through ease. We evolve through exposure. Exposure to the truth we've been avoiding. Exposure to the parts of ourselves we've abandoned. Exposure to the fire we've been too scared to walk through. But the ones who go through it, the ones who say, I will not die here, they rise. And when they do, they carry weight, authority, gravity. Not because they talk loud, but because they've lived. So stop asking for permission to shine. Stop checking who's clapping before you act. Start showing up as the version of you that knows who they are. Even if your hands still tremble, even if your voice still cracks, the courage is in the doing, not the perfection. Nobody changed the world by being convenient. Nobody broke generational curses by being polite. Nobody rewrote history by waiting for the green light. So go, even if it's slow, even if it's scared, even if it's messy, because the alternative, staying stuck in a life that shrinks you, that's a betrayal of everything you've overcome. You owe it to the younger you, the one who survived, adapted, endured, to thrive. You owe it to the version of you who cried quietly in bathrooms, who smiled to keep the peace, who stayed loyal to unworthy people, to finally say, I choose me. You owe it to the future you, the one who's standing on stages, writing books, leading movements, breaking cycles, to keep going. The storm wasn't the end, it was the activation. You are not empty, you are equipped. The lessons are in your scars. The fire is in your eye. The wisdom is in your walk. Move with that. Move with the authority of someone who knows they've been assigned, not just alive. You weren't built for survival. You were built for significance. Stop settling. Stop playing emotional house with people who don't even know how to sweep their own mess. Stop watering dead spaces and calling it patience. Stop dressing your pain in pretty quotes and pretending you're okay when your soul is screaming. You're not too much. You're just too real for the shallow. You're not intimidating. They're just not prepared for someone who doesn't flinch when the mask comes off. You're not broken. You're becoming bold. And boldness has no business begging for love, chasing approval, or shrinking to be chosen. From now on, you walk like your scars are sacred, because they are. They are proof you felt deeply, lost heavily, risked greatly, and still chose to keep loving, living, becoming. So rise, not for applause, but because you can. Rise, not to prove them wrong, but to prove yourself right. Rise, because the version of you that stayed silent, that tolerated the pain, that played small, they're done. A new one is here, and they carry fire. Some lessons don't whisper, they roar. Some seasons don't come to comfort, they come to not to kill you, but to remove what was never yours to carry. And sometimes what breaks your heart is what builds your spine. That betrayal, it taught you the weight of trust. That disappointment, it revealed the clarity you were too afraid to claim. That collapse, it wasn't destruction. It was the unveiling of something real beneath all that pretending. You don't emerge from chaos to be cautious. You rise to command, not in arrogance, but in alignment. Because once you face the thing that tried to undo you, the thing that came for your soul, there's not much left to fear. You stop negotiating your worth. You stop tiptoeing around truth. You stop letting people rent space in your spirit just because they knew you before the becoming. They don't get to define you anymore. You've tasted your own strength now. You've sat in silence and heard your heartbeat steady itself. You've cried until the sobs stopped shaking and realized, even in the hollow, there was still hope. That kind of resilience doesn't fade. It anchors. Now every choice you make is different. You no longer chase, you create. You no longer beg, you build. You no longer explain, you imbibe. Let people wonder why you changed. Let them question where the old version went. That version fulfilled its assignment. It got you through. But it's time now for something stronger, clearer, untouchable. Because power isn't noise, it's present. It's the stillness in your gaze when chaos swirls around you. It's the depth in your tone when you say no more. It's the peace you protect like sacred ground. Because now you know everything rises or falls by the boundaries you honor. When you've suffered long enough, you learn to stop bleeding for people who'd never bring a bandage. You stop handing your fire to those who would use it to light their own lives. You stop pouring endlessly into broken vessels, hoping they'll someday be whole. That's not love, that's self-abandonment dressed in loyalty. And your power won't live in a house where you are not valued. This is the season of return. Return to you, the you before the apology, the you before the pretending, the you before the bending just to be seen, the raw, real, unfiltered you, who doesn't need to impress, doesn't need to convince, doesn't need to shrink. They said you were too much. That was code for they couldn't handle your light. They told you to tone it down. That was fear talking, not love. They distanced themselves when you started healing. Yeah. Healing exposes those who benefit from your pain. Now you walk alone if you must, but you walk in truth. You don't beg for energy that matches yours. You attract it by refusing anything less. You no longer compromise your peace to make others comfortable. You no longer dilute your dreams to fit into environments built for playing small. You no longer mistake being needed for being loved. That's what power does. It recalibrates your entire system, not from the outside in, but from the inside out. And here's what they won't tell you. Not everyone gets access to the upgraded you. Some people were only meant to know your brokenness, not your brilliance. They were assigned to a chapter, not the entire book. And you've turned the page. Now you don't entertain drama. You observe it. You don't chase closure. You choose clarity. You don't fight to stay where your spirit can't breathe. That is what turning pain into power looks like. It's not just about strength. It's about strategy. You learn who you are in the breaking, but you become who you are in the rebuilding. And the rebuild doesn't require an audience. It happens in the quiet when you wake up and choose integrity over popularity, when you choose healing over attention, when you choose discipline over distraction, because power without purpose is just noise. And you weren't built to echo, you were built to impact. So ask yourself, what are you building? Not just out of your pain, but through it. Are you using it to love deeper, to speak louder, to stand firmer, to lead bolder? Because you can either recycle the past or you can rise from it. There is no in between. At some point, you have to look in the mirror and say, I'm done waiting. I'm done shrinking. I'm done grieving a version of me that no longer fits in. And when you say that, when you say it with your chest and your soul in alignment, the universe moves, doors open, weight lifts, people shift, because you're no longer operating from pain. You're operating from power, not a mask, not a performance, not a projection, but real, rooted, anchored power. The kind that doesn't flex, it flows. The kind that doesn't scream, it stirs. The kind that doesn't chase validation, it walks in truth. And that is your birthright, not because you earned it, but because you endured enough to finally claim it. So the next time life hits hard, and it will, remember this: you're not starting from scratch. You're starting from wisdom. You're not empty. You're expanded. You're not weak. You're waking up, and the world hasn't seen the full force of you yet. But they will, because this next version, it doesn't beg. It doesn't break at the first sign of conflict. It doesn't need a crowd to feel called. This next version, it builds in silence and speaks with thunder. And when it arrives, there will be no need to announce it, because real power is felt, not flaunted. Let them misjudge your silence. They don't know it's the sound of strategy. Let them confuse your distance with weakness. They don't realize you've learned how to retreat to refocus, not retreat to run. You're not hiding, you're prepared. Because what's coming next requires version 10 of you. Not the version that tolerated, but the one that transforms. No more asking small questions. No more entertaining shallow conversations. No more apologizing for being deep in a world that worships surface. You were never meant to skim through life. You were meant to dig roots, build legacy, birth truth. And legacy doesn't start when the world claps for you. It starts when you start clapping for yourself. When you wake up and say, today I choose to walk like I belong in every room I enter. Not because of who approves you, but because of what you've overcome. Because those who've been through the fire don't need applause to validate their worth. They've already been approved by the pain that didn't destroy them, by the storms that didn't drown them, by the battles that didn't end them. So why shrink? Why second guess your gifts? Why delay what your soul already knows it's time to birth? You weren't given breath to be background noise. You weren't saved just to survive. You weren't revived to repeat old cycles. You were elevated to elevate others. You were awakened to awaken the sleeping parts of everyone around you. So let your presence disrupt. Let your standards rise so high they offend the unready. Let your boundaries be so clear they echo louder than your words. You're not here to carry the weight of who others want you to be. You're here to carry light, to embody what freedom looks like after the cage of people pleasing is burned to the ground. You've already paid the price for your power. Now it's time to walk in it unapologetically, uncompromisingly, unstoppably. There is no more room for self-betrayal. You can no longer afford to doubt what you were born to do. You can no longer afford to keep editing your essence just to soothe someone else's insecurity. If your truth rattles cages, let it. If your glow disturbs their shadows, let it. If your joy triggers their bitterness, let it. Your job is not to shrink. Your job is to show up with all of you, with the fire, with the flaws, with the faith that says I'm building something that cannot be undone, even when it feels lonely, even when it's quiet, even when the applause turns to silence. Because in that silence, you will hear your real voice again, the one that existed before fear, before shame, before heartbreak taught you to hide. You'll hear the voice that doesn't tremble when it speaks, the voice that knows its value even when no one else affirms it. And when you speak from that place, people listen, because power doesn't announce itself. It arrives, and when it does, everything shifts. Doors that were locked swing open, resources show up out of nowhere. People you never imagined align with your path, not because you begged, but because you became the version of you that pain demanded, became the one who no longer waits to be chosen because you've chosen yourself. So here's the truth you need to carry into everything from this day forward. You didn't go through all that to sit in survival. You didn't cry all those nights to live a life of compromise. You didn't rise from the ashes to decorate the cage they built for your silence. You are not the aftermath. You are the answer to prayers your ancestors whispered with broken voices and bound hands, the answer to a generation begging for something real, the answer to your own question, can I make it? You already did, so stop looking back. Stop watering memories that don't deserve your attention. Stop reopening doors you had the strength to close. This is your becoming era, the era where you build boldly, the era where you love wisely, the era where you speak with fire, the era where you stop explaining your joy. Because when you stop treating your pain like a problem and start treating it like power, you become unshakable. You become a force, not loud, but undeniable, not perfect, but powerful. Because power doesn't require polish, it requires presence. And your presence, when fully owned, becomes permission for others to rise too. So take up space, love out loud, lead with vision, not vengeance, and never ever apologize for outgrowing the spaces that couldn't hold your destiny. This is the culmination, the closing of the old, the rising of the unstoppable. No one needs to believe it but you, and that's enough. You've done the grieving, you've done the surviving. Now do the becoming, because everything they said would destroy you, everything you thought you'd never bounce back from, everything that tried to silence your roar, it all failed. And what remains is fire,